Okay, calm down.
If you were working for Biden, let's say, what would you tell him to do?
I'd say, Mr. President, whoever told you that Russia has already lost doesn't know is totally ignorant.
Right.
Okay, Russia has not lost; they're about to win. So we start from that. I think you need to get rid of uh, Austin, your Lloyd Austin, your Secretary of Defense, because he has a long record of falsifying intelligence. Okay, so you get rid of him. You get rid of Blinken, who really doesn't get it, and Sullivan. You got to be really careful about. But here's the deal, Mr. President. The Russians will have to decide within the next couple of weeks, after they rebuff what was called the Ukrainian counteroffensive. Mr. President, you remember now that it's been 2 months since they've been trying to breach the Russian lines, right? And they haven't gotten anywhere. Okay. So in about 3 weeks, they'll use up the rest of their forces. The Russians will be able to march to the Dnieper River, which is a natural divide between the Donbass, eastern Ukraine, and western Ukraine. The Russians don't want to go any farther than that. They don't want to have anything to do with those people in West Ukraine, but they're going to want a cordon sanitaire. They want to want a DMZ or something so that artillery from Western Ukraine won't hit people in Eastern Ukraine. But that's when we sit down and we talk to them. There's a deal in the making. Let me remind you, Mr. President, that in October, in that major speech at Valdai, Putin said, look, Odessa, that beautiful city on the Black Sea coast. It could be what do you call it? A яблоко раздора. Яблоко is apple, okay? The раздор is discord. So, the Trojan War, for God's sake, in mythology and all. Okay, so it could be an apple of discord, or it could be a means to bring people together and come at a sensible solution. Okay. Whoa, that's a very broad hint. I'm not even sure that the Blinken and Sullivan told the president about that, but I'm telling you now, Mr. President, that that's a possibility because Ukraine, without access to the sea, and that would mean Odessa, it's the only one left, really, the ones that are already occupied. Without access to the sea, Ukraine's just a breadbasket, just a farm for the rest of Europe, okay? To be a viable nation, they need access to the sea. Why don't we make Odessa, why don't we make it ruled by whoever succeeds Zelensky and whoever acts for the Russians in that part of Ukraine? Let it be a kind of a city like Trieste after one of those world wars. We can do that. We can give them access to the sea. But if you don't buy that, Mr. President, we're going to go all the way to the Polish border. They're not going to play games with us anymore. One of the reasons we'll do that is because we can, unless you put troops in there. You say you don't want troops, you don't want boots on the ground. Even if you put them in with slippers on, they're going to be annihilated. Okay, we know what slippers look like. All right, I mean, this is not really funny. So it's come to a decision where Biden has got to make a decision. Does he tell Zelensky, look, the jig is up. You've lost. Okay, we gave you 98% of what you wanted, and you still lost. So talk to the Russians. Is that going to happen? Or is it going to be the kind of stalemate where the Russians continue to grind down the Ukrainians right into the fall, into the muddy season, and into next year? That has been Putin's preferred route, but never before has he had free reign to go all the way west. I don't know which he's going to choose, but Mr. President, you need to know these things because you can have an effect on what happens now, and you have to realize what the reality is. And if anybody tells you that Russia has already lost, well, we told you, the veteran intelligence professionals for sanity, on the 26th of January of this year, that you should fire anybody that told you that Russia was going to lose. They have the upper hand. That's reality. They have to deal with it. The business having to do with Ukraine was simply to weaken Russia. Bush himself has said we need to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia. And Putin is strong enough now. He wasn't earlier on, but they are strong enough now to resist that. They have a better conventional armed forces. And Katie, I'll tell you a secret. They have a better strategic armed forces as well, with all these new weaponry that they developed, and that Putin very idiosyncratically, it was not precedented that he would, during not a State of the Union, State of the Federation of Russia, State of the Country address in 2018, he said, all right, now look, you wouldn't listen, West. Here's what we've developed. And he did little videos. He said that one goes around the South Pole, okay? This one's flies so fast. This is Mach 9, okay, blah, blah, blah. And they said, okay, now, Mr. President, or West, or NATO, or Washington, will you listen now? Now, I don't know why they didn't listen, why they didn't talk to these guys, but instead, they wanted to weaken Russia. They wanted to make sure that Putin would never last, and they've done just the opposite. If you compare the popularity ratings of Putin these days, they hover between 70 and 80, okay? And Biden's is not even half that, I suppose. So, the Russian people are firmly behind this, and it's not going to stop. Russia is not going to lose. And once the president comes around to understanding that, then we're in much less peril. Because just 2 days ago, the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, okay, he's sort of the bad cop. And he said, look, you West, you NATO people, you ought to pray that we don't lose. Because if we lose, it's inevitable. We will use nuclear weapons. Huh. I mean, I've been saying that for years, but here's the former president and deputy head of the National Security Council in the Kremlin saying, look, pray that you don't beat us, because if we lose, then we will resort to nuclear weapons. That's as clear as you could make it. I believe that to be the case. These people in Washington need to get that through their heads. I'm not sure they're being instructed. I'm not sure they're being even told about these warnings, and that makes me very, 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 fearful as well as angry.